¿Me puedes cerrar la puerta, por favor? Y ya está. Hi, Becky. How are you? Good evening. All right. Well, we're starting our live today. Thank you for joining in. And yesterday there was a little bit of a lot of conundrum because of Labor Day. So the traffic was just horrible everywhere. I wasn't going to make it on time, so I decided to do it today. So great. So thank you for watching. Today's class or today's Facebook Live is on food additives and ultra processed products. So we've been talking about food in all of our sessions, and it's really important that we get to know our food, that we know what we're eating, that we know what we're putting into our bodies. I really can't say that enough. And the more you know about your food, the wiser decisions you're going to make, the better you are going to be able to eat, because you will know what you are eating and you're not just eating because of what is being sold to you. So that is a huge topic because we're very used to, or some of us, when we grew up. Hi, Cindy. Thank you. I'm excited too. When we probably, or people my generation, we grew up with industrialized food. So we have seen that the rise globally in obesity and diabetes and in all of these metabolic diseases has been parallel to the rise in food industrialization. So it's a different era right now. Our nutrition has evolved to the point where we mostly eat products, or there's a huge percentage of our food comes from products and not from real food. So the whole idea of having these classes is to go kind of a little bit back and try to eat more whole foods as much as we can, as much possible. And we also talk about this in our meetings. When we have the surgery, when we get surgery done, one of the things that happens, and I know a lot of you have told me that this is something that you experience, is that your taste buds change. So the way that you experience food is very different. It's you're not only the way that it tastes, the way it smells, the way that you perceive pleasure in your foods change. So this is something that I've discussed with a lot of patients. And if any of you here watching have experienced this, just let me know in the comments. But just the way that you experience food is a lot different after surgery. The kinds of foods that you crave are different. The pleasure that you feel with food is different. The impulse that you feel to eat certain foods is different. The way you perceive the taste in certain foods is very different, or in certain culinary ingredients is very different. So it's important that we kind of reset our taste buds too, and that we reset the way that we eat, so that we don't go back to eating all of these products. So, all right, I'm going to be looking at the questions while I speak. So, so there's a very big difference in eating all of these ultra processed products and eating whole foods and eating beans and lentils. And we always talk about legumes in all of our classes. I love legumes. I think they're one of the most wonderful foods in the world. And so getting our nutrients from whole foods is obviously a lot better. And sometimes we have this idea that, well, I'm not going to eat whole grains or legumes because my carb count is going to go too high. So that's not really going to happen. We're actually going to, when you eat whole foods, your nutrient count is going to go high. So we've talked about it a lot. Don't count your calories, don't count your carbs, count the number or count your colors. We say that. Eat the rainbow, count the colors that you are eating, but also count the number of processes your foods go through. And the more processes your foods go through, the less nutritious they will be. So Kaylin says the nausea after surgery when eating food again is very real. Yes, it is. So many of the foods that are ultra processed and that have additives in them, we have them in our, a lot of us have them in our kitchen, have them in our pantry, and usually they're soups or sauces, dressings, of course, junk food, ice cream, all of these packaged meats. What else? Sodas, beverages, all of these foods that aren't really foods, that are just made out of industrialized ingredients, is what we call ultra processed products. So we have seen that the rise in obesity and type 2 diabetes has been parallel with the industrialization of food. And now more than about 60% or about 60% of the total calories that are consumed in the United States come from ultra processed products. So that's more than half of the diet of people from the United States come from ultra processed products. So that is also something that we see, that there's a lot of obesity in the United States. There's a lot of type 2 diabetes, and it does have a lot to do with the type of foods that are eaten in the United States. And another alarming fact is that there was just a study was published just recently where they saw that the consumption of ultra processed products of children and adolescents from ages 2 to 19 increased from 61% to 63% in less than 10 years. And the calories from unprocessed foods went from 28.8% to 23.5%. So the amount of ultra processed products that is being consumed in the United States is rising, and the amount of whole foods that is being consumed in the United States is lowering. So we need to change that. And it really just, it starts in your home, it starts in your pantry, and it starts in your family and the decisions that you make every day with the foods you eat. So Cindy says a lot of sugar-free or bariatric stuff is so processed. I'm only 6-ish weeks out. Will it be possible to hit protein goals from real foods instead of protein shakes and the processed stuff? It's very difficult to actually get your protein from just whole foods. I mean, there is a lot of ways that you can add protein to smoothies or to your soups, but it's very difficult. So there's protein formulas that are not as processed. And also all of these supplements, we'll have a class on specifically supplements. Even though they do have a lot of ingredients or industrialized ingredients, they're all nutrients. So here we're talking about the foods that aren't actually foods that don't carry a lot of nutrition, that are just a lot of flavors and colors and textures. So we do talk about, I've never been able to reach it by eating just food. I've always had to use protein shakes. Yes, protein shakes are something that you're going to have to consume for at least the first year after surgery. It is necessary. So we've talked about foods that nourish us. We already talked about plants, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables. We already went over all of that. And we also, that is what nourishes us. So, but it's not just nutrition that we look for in food. We also want pleasure. We want to enjoy our food. So all of these ultra processed products have ingredients that stimulate our senses. That is one of the characteristics that these foods have, is that they are colorful, they are tasty, they smell good, they appeal to all of our senses somehow. So even at the moment that you buy it, the way they market the products is targeted at your senses, right? Because you want that product. So, and they're usually targeted to children. So ultra processed products go through ultra processed products or there's a classification of food. So there's this classification of food according to their processes. And it's the NOVA classification system. That's what it's called. And I think in another class we went through it, and there's 4 different groups. The first group is food that is unprocessed, food that does not have that, or minimally processed, that is just either removed from the ground, or the animal is sacrificed and prepared for consumption. So processing is minimal. It's either dried or ground or canned or frozen or cut. So, and food processing is really any action that alters food from its natural state for preservation or to make it edible. So group number 1 is unprocessed or minimally processed food, which would be basically fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds. So basically plants and animals. Plants and animals are unprocessed foods, and foods that have just the processing is minimal so that we can consume them. But basically the whole food is still, or the food is preserved. Group 2 are the processed culinary ingredients. We talked about culinary ingredients last week. So basically, last week on Thursday. So basically group 2 would be butter, salt, oils, sugar, all of these ingredients that are used in a small quantity so that we can cook our food, or so that we can make our food tastier. And then group 3 are processed foods, foods that have foods from group 2 added to foods in group 1 so that they can be preserved, such as fermentation, canning, bottling. So all of this is a way of preserving or making them durable. Now, group 4 are the ultra processed foods. This is what we want to avoid, the ultra processed products. Group 4 are all of these products that are added, or that are just a bunch of industrialized ingredients that are put together to simulate foods from group 1. So let's say orange soda. Orange soda really does not have oranges. It's just orange color, it's orange flavor, smells like orange. So it has the characteristics of an orange maybe, but it really is not an orange. So that would be an ultra processed product, or a product from group 4. So it's important that we understand this classification so that we know what we are eating. So all of these ultra processed products are formulated from food derived substances, but they also have additives. So they can be more appealing to the senses, and they can be more durable. So they are designed and manufactured for maximum profit. They are low cost. The ingredients are low cost. They have a long shelf life. They're hyper palatable. We've talked about the palatability of foods and how it changes in patients that have bariatric surgery. So all of these ultra processed products are hyper palatable, and they also are highly marketed to consumers. So when you see a product, an ultra processed product, it's very vivid, it's very colorful, and it has all of these characteristics that make it very appealing to the eyesight too. So we okay, I thought we had a question. And these are usually, that's what they are called, ready to eat or ready to heat. And they are typically calorie dense. They are high in sugars or starches or unhealthy fats and high in sodium. So really, we don't want all of these types of foods in our diet. They're very convenient, they're hyper palatable, but they also disrupt satiety signaling. So you've probably noticed that when you are eating, let's say, potato chips, you really can't feel that moment when you are satisfied. They're usually not filling, and they interrupt the way that your body perceives satiety. They also contain harmful chemicals that can lead to inflammation or to gut dysbiosis. We've talked about this too, of how the gut microbiota can change when all of these ultra processed products are consumed. And they're usually, these foods are not filling, and we usually eat them too when we are distracted or when we are doing all of these activities. So we eat them mindlessly. And they also have hormone disrupting chemical compounds, which is really important because sometimes we believe that eating foods that are low sugar or low calorie or low fat or low all of this is better for us because we're not gaining weight from them. But we don't want to not gain weight from a food. We want something that nourishes us and something that gives us health, some food that provides us with health. So Josie says, I eat lean cuisine meals. Are those too ultra processed? Sometimes life gets in the way and these are convenient. Yes, actually, they are ultra processed. And if you look at the sodium content, they're usually high. I mean, I know that it's difficult going from packaged foods to cooking your own foods when you have a very hectic schedule, but there's ways of doing that. And I mean, we'll be discussing that in all of the classes. But if what's easy for you or convenient for you is packaged food, I do suggest that you look for, or you at least start reading all of the ingredients that they have. Well, right now in as the class goes by, we'll talk about how you can identify these. Hi, I'm catching up. Our previous sessions recorded and available. Yes, they're on the YouTube channel. So we talk a lot about food in our classes. So what happens with these ultra processed products and all of this lean cuisine and ready to eat TV dinners, it worsens your nutritional intake too. So instead of eating foods that are healthy, we start eating foods that they kind of, because they don't provide a lot of nutrition. So you really have to think about it. You know, how much does this product provide nutrition for me? And what am I eating this instead of? So, you know, one of the options that you can have is these meal kits. So there's this meal kit that I like a lot that's called Purple Carrot. It comes to your house and well, that one's vegan, but there's others that aren't vegan. There's Blue Apron and there's HelloFresh. There's I think Martha Stewart has her meal kit too, and they're pretty good. So all these meal kits could probably be a much better option for you. I'll help you research some meal kits. We can talk about that in another class too. What kinds of meal kits or what we can do to substitute TV dinners, because I know it's easy and it's convenient, but it's not the best. It's definitely not the best option for your health. It's probably easy, but it's probably not the best option nutrition-wise. All of these are usually also energy dense, and they're disproportionate in their sodium content, and they usually also have unhealthy fats. So it's probably not the best option. So another one of the things that ultra processed products does is that it encourages overconsumption. So, when you eat something that is very appealing to your palate, you want more and you want more and you want more. So it kind of leads to overconsumption. I don't want to say it's addictive, because it's not something that you get addicted to, but it is something that stimulates your palate so much that you want to eat more. You want more taste, more flavor. And because they're not filling and they're not nutritious, then you just end up eating a lot more. What's the name of the one you like again? Hi, Sheila. Oh, so good to see you. It's called Purple Carrot. Purple Carrot. I have a list of them. We could probably do that in our next class. No, in our next class, we're having a guest. But I'll make a list. I'll make a list. I do have a list. Purple Carrot is a good one. I like that one. I've tasted it, but it's vegan. So if you're not into vegan, you probably won't enjoy it a lot. But there's other ones. I'll research. There's HelloFresh. HelloFresh is another one, and it is it's in California. So I mean, in different states, I'm sure they have different ones. All right. So all of these ultra processed products have also been linked to obesity, and there's this study. There's a very interesting study that was made where patients were asked to. It came out in 2018, and it really changed the way that ultra processed products were viewed in the United States. So it was done in the United States. So they made people eat just freely. There were two groups, one from just unprocessed foods, and the other group had the option to eat ultra processed products and processed foods. So the group that ate ultra processed products ate approximately 500 calories more than the group that ate unprocessed foods. So here it's really important, because this was a very important study too, because we know that extra calories lead to extra pounds. But also just cutting off on ultra processed products will make you cut off about 500 calories a day in your diet. So just not eating all of these foods will help you lose weight. So when we start going on diets, we're always looking at calories, but we really should look at the processes that our foods go through, and all of the added ingredients that they may have. All of these foods have also been linked to type 2 diabetes, to depression, to heart disease, to just overall mortality. And they also have been linked to gut dysbiosis, which we know having a healthy microbiome is something that gives us overall health. So the disruption of microbiome, they're pro-inflammatory. So just cutting off on these kinds of foods would be very beneficial to our health. So all of these, there's a lot of food policies that are trying to be implemented from different countries to avoid or to lower the consumption of ultra processed products, and to probably have a little bit more consumption of unprocessed foods. Frozen veggies, ultra processed? No, frozen veggies are not ultra processed because they are just frozen. So they would be from group one. Group one, remember we said it's minimally processed or unprocessed. So that includes freezing. So actually when we freeze certain vegetables, it stops their decomposition so they can actually be healthier. I always recommend, if you buy a lot, like let's say you buy the big bag of spinach at Costco, freeze half, and then the rest use it for, freeze it for smoothies or for soups or for any other preparations. And the rest, keep it in your refrigerator so that you can eat them fresh. But because freezing it can stop its decomposition, and it can make it more nutritious too. So there's a lot that has been done in different countries to avoid the consumption or to lower the consumption of ultra processed products. Here in Mexico, there's a lot of regulations that have been done in the past years. So the sugar tax, I don't know if you've heard that. It's in a lot of countries. So it has lowered the consumption of certain foods. So taxes is one way. But there's also the front of package warnings. And a lot of you have asked me when you come to Tijuana to get your surgery, you look at, you have the beverages that have these signs, the black, they're like these round shape, they're not round, it's like an octagon. And it says high in sugar, high in saturated fat, high in sodium, high in calories. Be careful, it has artificial sweeteners. This is not something that children should eat. So all of these is a measure that certain countries are taking so that the consumption of these foods can be lowered. There's also some marketing restrictions that we've had too. So if you look at the cereals, like the Toucan Sam, it's no longer in the cereals. The tiger, in the tiger and the cereals, like all of these cereals can't have athletes, they can't have cartoons, they can't have anything that appeals to children. So many of these cereals that are marketed as something healthy, and they're usually sold to children, they're very colorful. So we see all of these cereals are blue and red, and children like these. Children want to see them. They want to buy them, and then they come with a little toy or with a coloring, something to color in the back of the box or activities to do in the back of the box. So all of these marketing strategies, they can no longer do them in Mexico. So in Mexico, we have advanced a lot in terms of food policies to have a better food environment. And we also have laws in school environment protection. So there's a lot of things that have been done here in Mexico to create a better food system. I'm not too familiar with the laws in the United States, but here in Mexico, that is something that we're doing. And actually next week, I don't know if you guys have anybody here has seen, but a lot of you have asked me, what are those black signs that these beverages have, and all the junk food have them. And one of the researchers that participated in that law is going to be with us next Thursday. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this topic, about what these food additives are, how they impact our health, and what is being done in terms of policies to have a better food environment. But personally, what we can do right now is learn how to select your food, get to know your food, read the ingredients, learn what every single ingredient means. And there's this website, I'll show it to you right now. But it's really important that we read the ingredients. First of all, if we cannot avoid eating products or buying products, because I know that you go to the supermarket and everything is products, everything is packaged, everything has everything. I mean, here in Mexico, it's easier to buy things in bulk, but in the United States, almost everything is packaged. So it's really important that you look at the ingredients and that you are eating the less ingredients possible. If you lower your consumption of ultra processed products, your diet is going to be a lot healthier. So all of these TV dinners right now that, who was mentioning? I forgot the name. Josie. So Josie, if the only thing that you can eat are previously prepared frozen dinners, then make sure that you read the ingredients and that you know exactly what you're eating, and that you try to find the best options available, that the least processed foods that you can. So it's very important that we read the ingredients, that we learn how to select our food, that we get to know our food, that we count the processes that our food goes through too, because the processes that they go through not only affects our health, it also affects the population, and it affects planetary health. So the more processes, the more people involved in its production, the more places involved in its production, well, the more it's going to affect the planet. So we do have to make very wise decisions, be very conscious in terms of not just my health, but planetary health. You know, we're very big on that too here at EOC. So you do have to understand that every single choice that you make does not only affect you, it also affects the planet. So we have to take that into consideration. So there's this website that I wanted to show you. Give me a second. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen. And I'll put a link in the in the comment section. Here it is. So if you go to this website, you can search here for something, you know, whatever you want to look for. I don't know, maybe let's say maltodextrin. And it tells you what it is, what it's made for, you know, what it does to your food. Okay, the definitions. And then there's this other one that I like very much, that I like even more than this one, because it also tells you how it affects your health. But this one is in Spanish. So if any of you are fluent in Spanish, or if you just want to read it, it's this one right here. So here you also put like maltodextrin. And it'll tell you what it is, the description. It'll tell you the description, and it will also tell you what it's used for and its toxicity level, the effects that it can have, how it affects your body. So having this type of information is really important, because all of these are stuff that you put in your body, and you really know what you want to know what you're putting into your body, and not just eat things mindlessly, or eat it because it says that you're not going to gain weight from it, or that it's low fat, or that, oh, look, it's organic. So it's, you know, the number one rule we always talk about is read the ingredients, know your food, know what you're putting into your body, what you're putting into your body. So I am looking at the comments right now. Okay. Okay. Everything is so processed. Yes, it is. I just had my surgery on Sunday. When are cooked veggies allowed? Cooked veggies are allowed on week 3. Soft foods. I've never been able to eat veggies without them being mixed into something. I get them with the Progresso soups. I get 99% less fat, or 130 calorie soups. Yeah. Just read the ingredients from those Progresso soups. They're usually very high in sodium. Um, I mean, if I'm just saying, if it's your only option, but yeah, they're usually really high in sodium. And let me see. Thank you, Sonia. Hi, Sonia. What's the name of the one you like? Oh, it's purple carrot. We talked about that. And frozen veggies, ultra processed. We answered that. And all right, that's all we have for questions. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else want to know something else about products, about the ultra processed products? Do you have suggestions to up water intake? I'm struggling. Yes, I know water can be difficult for some people, and it's better if you even like, if you squeeze a lemon in your water, it's going to change the density and it's going to make it a lot more tolerable. And also, if you add chopped fruit like cucumbers, or if you add herbs like basil, mint, it will also, or a rosemary, lavender, it will change the density of your water and it's going to make it a lot more tolerable. Just make sure that you don't add any of that crystal light stuff that has a lot of flavorings and colorings that what we don't want in our food. What about protein shakes? Yes. Okay, so protein shakes, we will have a class on that. So all of these nutritional supplements, protein shakes, formulas, they do have added ingredients, but because they are just nutrients, they wouldn't be classified as, or they would be classified as ultra processed products, but they are, the nutrition that you get from them is going to be a lot better for your health than the added ingredients. So here, all of the products that we need to avoid are the ones that provide no nutrition at all. So many of these products that you guys are saying is, they really don't provide anything but the flavor or the color. So that is what we want to avoid. There's a lot of protein drinks that have, that do have certain added ingredients, but they are necessary because if they didn't have them, they would taste gnarly and you wouldn't want them. So, and it is something that patients that have bariatric surgery need to take. So we'll talk about that specifically when we talk about nutritional supplements, which will be next week. So, all right. So next Thursday, yeah, the day after tomorrow, we're having a special guest. We're having a researcher from the National Institute of Public Health, and she's going to talk to us about the food policies that we're having here in Mexico, and mainly all of these front of pack warnings, the food label warnings that you guys have seen in many of the products that you've bought. So a lot of you have asked me about that. So instead of giving you a class myself, I just decided to bring her in and we'll talk about these food additives too. So if you have any more questions about this, make sure you jot them down. The website, I'll put it in the comments right now. I'll put both websites in the comments section right now so that you can have like your a place to look for the ingredients that you are eating. It's always a good idea to look at all the ingredients that you are eating. The more natural, the better. The less processes your foods go through, the better. So the more you know, the better. So thank you guys. All right. So I guess we're done. There's no more questions. And if you do have any more questions about additives, we will be talking about this again with an expert next Thursday. And I hope that you guys can tune in. And well, I'll see you next Thursday. Thank you. Bye.